Hey guys, it's Buddhagem here, and another edition of Buddhagem's Mailbox. We have a question today from Mars 2084, and it revolves around a video I did earlier in my interview with Noam Chomsky, where we talk about the importance of reform moving us towards revolution. And so first I'm going to play the clip that Mars brings up, and then we'll get to his question. So without further ado, renowned linguist and political dissident Noam Chomsky.
If you're a serious revolutionary, and you really are looking for not an autocratic revolution, but a popular one, which will move towards freedom and democracy, you want to have the mass of the population who are implementing it and carrying it out and solving problems and so on. And they're not going to do it unless they have discovered for themselves that there are limits to reform. So sensible revolutionary will try to push reform to the limits, first of all, because it's helpful to people. So it's better to have an 8-hour day than a 12-hour day. And you want to do things that are just on ordinary ethical grounds. Sure, you'll support them. But secondly, on strategic grounds, you have to show that the system, if it's true, maybe the system will collapse to reform. Okay, that's fine. But if it won't, you have to reach the point where it resists, and there's nothing left but to take things over, maybe by force. That's basically self-defense.
On to Mars's question, and he says, there are many problems plaguing our country today, and one of the most serious problems is our system of corporatism. One of the few representatives that speak out against corporatism is Ron Paul. Given his history of speaking out against the collusion of big government and big business, it seems that Paul would put an end to corporatism. Ultimately, I think Paul's right-Libertarian philosophy would be harmful to society, since corporations would have little to no regulation. So while they may have less influence on government, they would have more influence on society as a whole. Still, to end corporatism would undeniably be substantial reform. Based on Chomsky's emphasis on reform as a means to revolution, would it be reasonable to support Ron Paul in the hopes that his policies would fail miserably and may thence lead to an increased class consciousness, or would Paul's policies be part of the autocratic revolution that Chomsky mentioned and should be avoided at all costs? I'd like to know what you guys think about this, and I apologize if you've already touched on it. So, great question, Mars. I have touched on it, the Ron Paul phenomenon, in about 3 videos. But it is a good question. I'd like to go over it in a little bit more detail. But let's first off start with a clip of Ron Paul to show what it is he's really against. This is a clip from Ron Paul on the Stephen Colbert Show.
I want to ask you to raise your hand if you'd like to abolish the Department of Education.
Sure.
Okay. Keep it up. Keep it up. Okay, keep it up. And put it down when I name an agency you would like to keep. Okay? Department of Homeland Security, Department of Energy, the IRS, FEMA, the UN, NATO, the Interstate Commerce Commission, NAFTA,
Hey,
the WTO.
yeah. Get rid of them all.
UNICEF.
That would be my very last. We don't need it. We could do better in charity work, but it wouldn't be one of my targets. Well, when I come down here.
You go down here where the children are?
Yeah, about there.
Ron Paul's little more than anti-government, and that's his appeal to a lot of people. And to kind of put that in perspective, again, I turn to political dissident Noam Chomsky.
What has been created by this half-century of massive corporate propaganda is what's called anti-politics. So anything that goes wrong, you blame the government. Well, okay, there's plenty to blame the government about. But the government is the one institution in which that people can change. It's the one institution you can affect by participation without institutional change, right? That's exactly why all the anger and fear is directed against the government. The government has a defect. It's potentially democratic. Corporations have no defect. They're pure tyrannies. So therefore you want to keep corporations invisible and focus all anger on the government. So you don't like something, You know, your wages are going down, blame the government, you know. Not blame the guys in the Fortune 500, because you don't read the Fortune 500, you know, thing. You just read what they tell you in the newspapers. So you don't read about the dazzling profits and the stupendous this and the wages going down and so on. All you know is that the bad government's doing something, so let's get mad at the government. As I say, plenty to be mad about the government, but the government is exactly what Dewey described it as. It's the shadow cast by business over society. You want to change something, change the substance, not the shadow. And everyone contributes to this, including the Democrats.
Now, on to your question, you know, would it be reasonable to support Ron Paul in the hopes that his policies would fail miserably and may thence lead to an increased class consciousness? No. I mean, you know, we don't want to be involved in efforts to reform things that aren't going to matter to people, that aren't going to help people, that don't have, you know, intrinsic value. I mean, you don't get involved in a campaign you hope's going to fail. Don't waste your energy like that. And yes, I believe Paul's policies would be part of the autocratic revolution that Chomsky mentions and warns about, and they should be avoided at all costs. Only elements of Ron Paul's message that resonates with a lot of people, you know, and so it's popular. And so I maybe that could be confusing. So again, I want to emphasize something that Chomsky says in the clip that I just played.
You want to have the mass of the population who are implementing it and carrying it out and solving problems and so on.
And that's precisely what we don't see in the Ron Paul phenomena. You know, it's you know, essentially Ron Paul has all the answers and we'll just support him and he'll fix everything. And I don't know how many times we can go down that road. You know, I mean, we don't need some fearless leader. We need to come together in our communities, like Chomsky's talking, you know, and address our problems as best we see fit. You know, not look for some messiah figure. And like you said, I mean, even if you were to support him, you'd hope that his policies wouldn't succeed. You know, and again, that'd be just such a waste of your time and energy. So Mars 2084, again, thanks for the question. I think we can do a lot better than Ron Paul. The good news is there's plenty of vibrant movements going on right now around all kinds of issues. If you care about something going on, get involved in your community. Start getting active. I mean, it's up to us. It's not, you know, Ron Paul's not going to save us. We have to save ourselves. So, again, thanks for the question. And it's been another edition of Buddhagem's Mailbox.